Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to another update on this Monday, January 15th, 2024 date. It is about 12:26 p.m. here, California time. I did have a 4-pointer off the Southern California coast here this morning. We'll get to that in a second. The latest earthquake activity, well, shows a little 0.9 there into the region of Southern California. Recapping the eruption activity here across the Iceland region. Things are slowing down very nicely, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I'll show you here in a minute why I think we could see some further activity here soon. Here is the latest map put out from the Icelandic site here, showing the extent of the current lava flow as well as the fissure activity here in the red lines. Those are the fissure activity that opened up here, a couple nights ago now, right? It'd be about 2 nights ago. Unfortunately, the first one that opened up here broke through the barrier. The barrier is going to be in this dashed line, so that's why we've seen the lava flow increasing towards the town. But it looks like that barrier is quite effective in terms of keeping that lava field migrated to the west over here. Unfortunately, we did have a secondary fissure open up here just outside of the Grindavik region. That's going to be in that little red line, and there's the extent of the lava flow. As of right now, it looks like things have calmed down in terms of the volume of output. I was looking at this earlier. It looks like there's only one active fissure, and that is back on the previous one that opened up first. I believe this one right here is stopped completely, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet. Let's check out what these folks are stating here in their most recent update. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so we can see a little bit easier. This was put out today. The intensity of the eruption decreases. New fissures may emerge on the surface of Grindavik in the coming days. The hazard assessment map has been updated. We'll check that out here in a second. Based on webcam footage, this is direct from the site here, it is evident that lava flow has decreased from the eruptive fissures that opened yesterday. A flow from the southern eruptive fissure, which emerged around noon yesterday near the town's border, seems to have ceased. That is good news for now. The majority of the remaining lava flow is now directed southwest along the protective barriers. Goodness, those guys worked hard, and it looks like their work was efficient as well in preventing a lot of that lava flow from entering into, well, from diverting it from the town. The path, so to speak, seems to have stabilized. It is difficult to estimate how long this eruption will last. Seismic activity has decreased, and GPS measurements indicate that the rate of deformation in the area has reduced. Now, here's the interesting part here. However, deformation is still detected near the southernmost part of the magma conduit beneath Grindavik. Remember, we've seen all that earthquake activity there about an hour or so prior to all this fissure activity opening up there. I still think there's a lot of buildup down there around the southern end of that extent. That would include Grindavik and southward there, maybe offshore. Measurements indicate that there has been a displacement of up to 1.4 meters in the past 24 hours distributed across numerous fissures within the town's boundaries. Fresh fissures have developed and existing ones have expanded. It is possible that additional fissures may emerge on the surface in the next few days. So, here is their most recent updated map here of the area, the hazard assessment, so to speak. Now, of course, where we're seeing the fissure activity right here, and then there's the secondary fissure and that little grade line. Oh, I don't want it that big. They're north of town, entering into the north part of town. These are zone 3 and 4. These are right now the most hazardous areas here on the map. That include earthquakes, fractures, lava flow, eruptive fissures without warning. We've seen that. A lot of pollution going on out here as well. It's possible here, the extent of the this magma intrusion dike that's been noted since back in October, the end of October. It's possible we could see further activity open up, extending south here through Grindavik and into the offshore areas. It's very possible. The GPS measurements here, let me show you guys these real quick. They have gone down in certain spots, while others have seen continued uplift here. Now here's the Svartsengi area, 8 hour runs. There was a little drop here. I believe this is a drop measurement on some of these graphs here near the Svartsengi area. But the overall trend here is still showing some uplift. Still showing what looks like inflation. Let me show you guys. This is a Grindavik run. Got to go down here for the 4 hour, or for the uplift, so to speak here. Vertical displacement. This is the chart. This here is back in December time period, right about when that activity opened up, around the 18th of December, I believe it was. Notice this up here. We're still kind of going up. We haven't seen any drop. If anything, right about the time Fisher activity opened up, we've seen a little spike of elevated, a push of magma, so to speak. We have not seen any downward trend here across the Grindavik area. That's why I think there's still the potential of seeing some further Fisher activity within Grindavik and southward. And they did note that as well in their latest update on that mentioning of the not the elevation, but the displacement there. Lacking across Grindavik. It's still inflated across that area, so got to keep an eye on that. I have a feeling we're going to see some more activity soon in that region. Back out of here real quick. Yeah, but these are the basic runs here. Many areas have shown a decrease in inflation. But obviously the most concern right now is across the Grindavik area, where it really hasn't slowed down. Let me bring up this map here. Is this the one I want? I don't think so. All right, let's move on and check out what they're stating in the news, because interesting to see what is being put out here to the public. This is the most recent, make sure I got the most recent update here. Grindavik, of course, was evacuated hours previously. Second fissure opened up above the town midday. The second fissure eruption seems to be over. The eruption does not present a threat to life. Flights to and from Iceland are unaffected, but they're asking people to stay away from here. They're not letting anyone around. Definitely not a tourist attraction. Should not be either. There's too much potential out here right now for hazards. There's an image here from the RUV local, or not local, but the Iceland news agency here, showing that lava field crossing one of the town road here. Goodness. There's some of the buckling of the road out here. Fissure activity opening up, cracks in the ground, so to speak, due to the the magma moving around below. And there's another view here of the town as well. Goodness. They did raise, looks like, some decent funds here for the Grindavik residents. That was set out, looks like, by an appeal by the Red Cross. So things, a lot of people donating to the folks there of this community who are dealing with this situation. Let's see here. So that's some older movement. Let's see here. So the Icelandic Meteorological Office says that the eruption is not over. Obviously it's not. We're still seeing that eruptive activity from one fissure up north. Activity in the northern fissure has decreased, but land continues rising at the Svartsengi area. That's what I'm talking about. The only reason why it would rise is because we're continuing to see an increase in magma from below. So this is a different pattern from the eruption back on the 18th, where we've seen, subsidence, deflation. Data is now being reviewed to see what it means. I know what it means. It means that there's further magma increasing from below. And that's not a good sign, and that tells me right there that we're going to see further fissure activity open up here soon. There is considerably uncertainty about what will happen next, and that nothing can be ruled out. It is being examined whether the magma in this eruption is coming from a place other than Svartsengi, given that the land rise there has not stopped. Look at this. Look at this wording right here. Even scientists really are, you know, not 100% certain, right, about what goes on below. They may have a theory or an idea. But these scientists here made a statement that this development surprised them. Seeing all this magma activity with very minimal adjustment in terms of the inflation that's going on below. So there's no indication that the magma inflow has stopped. So scientists are now going over measurements and interpreting them, getting news about the extent of the lava and mapping its thickness. The main thought now is how far the magma flow went. It's pretty clear that it went under the town itself. So anyway, I think we're going to see activity stir up a little bit. There's no indication that the inflow has stopped. So that's just enough wording right there to tell me that things are going to continue to go up. And the hazards could get more as we go on here in the days ahead. Let me back out here real quick. I don't know why these are so... Well, I keep adjusting them. That's why they're so big. Here's the Svartsengi area. Notice that deflation. We've seen a huge spike here. There's one little measurement right here stating the that it was like a push of magma. Something below really changed something below. We've seen a bunch of earthquake activity all over the southwestern portion of Iceland prior to this eruption activity there north of Grindavik. So something changed below. I think we may have seen a somewhat of a larger push of magma, or maybe from a different area than Svartsengi to get this elevated here. It's an interesting event. I'm kind of curious to see how this will play out. You know, there's always possibility of things getting worse out there. You know, maybe further activity across this area of Svartsengi region. If this area is rising, while this area is showing, you know, the fissure activity and release of the volume of magma, you would think that this area right here where the magma reservoir is, they claim, would relieve itself a little bit. So things are still pumping, so to speak. I guess that's the best word I can state here, that things are still pumping upwards towards the surface, filling these reservoirs and continuing the potential here for eruption activity. So it's one of those things we got to watch and pay close attention to, because things can get very interesting there. I think we'll see some more activity here soon. All right, moving on to earthquake activity. Southern California did see a 4-pointer out here off the coast of San Diego, 4.4, back prior to this fault system here, about 5 kilometers deep, 2 o'clock this morning. I pulled up historical data out here in this zone, which is going to be, yeah, roughly around this area right here. And I pulled up 4.5 since records have been kept. Now, I'm sure there may be some earthquake activity here that was not kept in the records, but there is some larger recorded activity out here historically. On the San Diego Trough here, a 6.3 struck back in 1800. Here it is, all these old earthquakes, right? A lot of time has passed. You know, we've been living in the informational technology age and staying busy with our lives, and you know, sometimes we get complacent on what the potentials are out here. Not only the San Andreas Fault, but other zones, including offshore of San Diego, 6.3, 1800. That's a decent quake. Far as, you know, little west here, I've seen a 5.2, 1948. A lot of older movement. There's a 5-pointer back in 2005. So this area can get some earthquakes, and some of them do look like they can be large. So just a heads up, haven't really seen any aftershock activity following that 4.4 this morning, but we'll continue to watch that. Doesn't look like we've seen any adjustment taking place over here. Sometimes we'll look at this earthquake activity and see an uptick away from here, indicating some strain regionally across the Southern California area. But I'm not seeing any major swarming, any unusual activity. There's a couple earthquakes very close here to the San Andreas Fault, southern portion, a 0.8, but I don't think those are enough to trigger the big one. If we start seeing some fours here, very close to here, kind of like we did, you know, a couple days ago, I would definitely be on guard. Well, it's been actually a week or so now since we've seen that 4-pointer out here. Nothing really became of it, but just a quick reminder that things are could get very active soon. 2.9 out in Mina, Nevada. One little earthquake here south of Mount Shasta. Don't believe that's associated with the volcano. 7 kilometers deep. There's Siskiyou Mountains up here. Trinity Mountains. So stress up here, it looks like plate as far as the fault systems. Up north, we got a handful of earthquakes showing up here. A lot of these somewhat deep as well. 43 kilometers, 46 kilometers, and this is a zone that's been seeing a little bit of tremor activity here. Let me back out of here real quick and show you the tremor map up there. Underneath this zone, kind of interesting because it's somewhat in the almost in the same location, just a little bit north here. We're seeing the earthquake activity, but over the past, let's see what we've got for the past week. We'll pull that up, search. We've seen a little bit of tremor down there into the Cascadia subduction zone. Now, when we get that tremor, that's basically, I think we're accumulating strain and stress upstream at the surface levels. But also a lot of times we get this deformation and crustal stress above this area. That's seeing all this tremor movement below. Tremor activity occurs as a result of the Juan de Fuca plate subsiding or subducting underneath the North American plate, which is right here. So you get the subducting going on. The tremor is kind of like a slow slip event, slow slip type of earthquake. But I don't like to use the term earthquake with this because earthquake is a sudden release of built-up strain. This is more or less like a pushing or a rubbing or vibration against the two plates. So, and that in itself does add, stress elsewhere. It could be upstream, up at the surface levels. I believe it's up at the surface levels, just looking at this earthquake activity around this region. Although some of that activity is getting deeper than some of the tremor. Very close to where the tremor activity occurs, actually. 43 to 46 kilometers for a couple of those deep earthquakes. Now, we can get some larger events taking place down there into that subduction zone. It's been a few years, I think a little bit more than a few years, since we've seen one of those deep earthquakes into the Cascadia. But they do happen here around the Seattle area and elsewhere as well. The big one, though, will not be a deep one. It'll be offshore, where we'll see that 9-pointer pop here across the Cascadia subduction zone. This is a sleeping giant. It's been sleeping since about 1700. That's a long time has passed, right? Just think of how many generations have passed since we've seen that big earthquake, a big 9-pointer. So a lot of time, a lot of accumulated slip, strain. Goodness. Average intervals here of the reoccurrence of big earthquakes is roughly around 250 to, I think they said, 400 to 500 years. So we quite haven't been 400 to 500 years, but the average is between 250 and that range. So it could pop today. It could happen 100 years from now. Just got to be prepared, right? I think the average, if you point out an average between all of the partial ruptures and the full ruptures, it comes out to about 300 years. So we could see either a full rupture or just a partial rupture down here across the Cascadia. That would be roughly between 8.1 to 8.3 down here Northern California, Southern Oregon area. And that in itself would do quite a bit of damage. Not as much as a full rupture, but 300 years. Let's see, regular intervals of 300 years. That would definitely put us overdue by like 24 years here. Either way, we'll continue to watch it. Most of the time, when this zone goes, when the Cascadia zone goes, it just goes. It doesn't go with a swarm. A swarm does not tend to happen before it goes. It just goes, according to the scientific data. All right, let's see what else we got here across California. We checked that. Yellowstone, nothing showing up here, but let me double check here and see what we have. I know yesterday we were seeing a handful of smaller quakes there across Yellowstone. And today it looks like there's maybe a couple, 1, 2, 3 or 4. There's a handful, it looks like, across the Yellowstone area. Nothing big. These are all very small earthquakes. No major swarms going on. Doesn't look like the USGS has got to it in terms of reporting the activity. This movement here is well, it was yesterday, and well to the west of Yellowstone here. So the activity that's actually taken place around here is not showing up on their map yet. But I'm sure they'll get to it, right? Oklahoma, what's going on out in Oklahoma? Still seeing some activity, but not in our zone. That's seen the activity out here a few days ago now. No further activity, but we are getting some near the Chickasha area. Out in the uncertain on if this is any type of oil field activity out here, but we do have some in the vicinity. A couple earthquakes out here today and yesterday in this area, and of course down in Texas still seeing some movement out in their oil fields. So a little bit of activity stirring up here today. One earthquake way up into the Russia area, 5.4, very shallow earthquake up in the mountains, it looks like, near this lake. As far as the rest of the plates here and their movement, there's that deep activity in Japan from yesterday. It looks, well, this is yesterday as well, 4.2. I'm not seeing any adjustment at the surface yet. That's a little concerning because we did see a handful of deep quakes here with no subsequent shallower earthquake activity up onto the subduction zones here. So this has gone awfully quiet. Obviously we got strain building away from the plate boundaries. But keep an eye on the Kuril-Kamchatka southward here. Nothing showing up following all that deep movement. Got a trail of activity across the Java Trench. 4-pointer there off the coast of Sumatra. But aside from that, let's see what else we got here. 5.1 in the Vanuatu area. Somewhat deep, 141 kilometers deep or so. New Zealand, looking on the globe here, looks like they did have a 3.5 South Island area, but nothing else showing up there on the globe for now. One earthquake down into the southern Atlantic, way down here. Goodness. USGS reporting that? Yes, they are. 5.1, 15 kilometers deep. The rest of the Atlantic here looks quiet. Still keep an eye on the Iceland area. Let me bring up the earthquake map. I forgot to check that because earthquake activity is key into determining potentially what's going on below or what's about ready to happen at the surface. We've seen upwards of 600 earthquakes here prior, and this was a large-scale movement. This wasn't just localized. That's why I think there's something bigger going on underneath this area that is not good news. We've seen earthquake activity really ramp up here regionally as a whole right before all this activity happened, about an hour and a half before the fissure activity opened up there north of Grindavik. We're still seeing earthquake activity, right? It is going down southward, it looks like, here into Grindavik, so we'll continue to watch that. But it seems as though these events, and we kind of noticed, last event back in December, we've seen mostly earthquake activity around where the fissure activity opened up back in December 18th, right here. Right, it was roughly right around this area, this crater area. We've seen a couple hundred earthquakes about 2 hours prior to the fissure activity opening up. And we've seen 600 or more prior to this activity further down south that popped here a couple days ago, where we're currently seeing the eruptive activity. But unlike back in December, they didn't have that broad scale event. Broad scale. So I think maybe what's going on here is definitely some further pushing of magma up here into the area, maybe not associated with the Savartsingi area. And they even mentioned that they're thinking that maybe this magma is coming from somewhere else than the Savartsingi area, or it doesn't make sense, right? If you think about it, if this magma intrusion taking place underneath Grindavik, if it's getting the source of the magma from the Svartsengi area, the reservoir, which is over, it's not listed on the map, but over here, there it is, Blue Lagoon, and the Svartsengi area is within this zone. If this activity is coming from the reservoir here, we would expect to see that GPS drop as far as the inflation, and it's not. So I think that bigger event here right before this activity stirred up something across these rift zones. Maybe there's a different magma source coming up, but it's definitely of something to watch and of concern for sure. I don't think this is over by a long shot. Latest imagery here. This was that an earthquake that popped up there a little bit? Looks like a little bit of earthquake activity, but this thing, there we go. I was saying it was having some eruptive activity here just prior to the update, and it is. It's still an active vent, that's for sure. So I would definitely keep an eye on this pretty closely. The multi-view here, and by the way, these sites are listed on the Live from Iceland site, livefromiceland.is. They got a wide view of cameras across the area, but the main one is going to be roughly right here. This is kind of looking down towards fissure activity, Grindavik, and the other fissure close to town, which is now not active, would be over here to the right. But they're zoomed in on one remaining active fissure here, which is north of Grindavik, the first fissure that opened up here in this recent round of events. But I don't think we're done yet, folks. Inflation tells us that we're not, so we got to go with the data. All right, let's get back to earthquake activity here. Puerto Rico still seeing a little bit of movement up here across the Puerto Rico Trench, couple 3s and 2s. Nothing big going on there for now. The other potential volcano activity here across Hawaii, doesn't look like there's a whole lot happening here. Mainly around the Pahala area, but these are all very typical movements down there in that area. Let's see here. Let's check out the latest informational statement on that volcano there, Kilauea Volcano. Kilauea daily update put out today. The volcano is not erupting. And it's the same, well, they do mention here over the past 24 hours, 31 small magnitude earthquakes recorded beneath the caldera. This increase was from a small swarm of 15 earthquakes that occurred at shallow depth directly south of the caldera. So they're still waiting for seismic activity to really kick up prior to any fissure activity or a resuming of the eruption there at Kilauea Volcano. Relative tilt is above the level reached prior to the most recent eruption back in September 2023, and the current tilt of inflation is at a higher level than at any time since the 2018 eruption. So things are, you know, they're ready, but I think we just need another push here of some activity over that hot spot, and we should see things really kick up. Let's go over and check out the tilt meter and take a look here, see what we got for the Kilauea Volcano today. It had been going down. Remember last night's update? I kind of chatted about this, how we're in that little stage here, similar to what we've seen earlier this month, a little deflation event. Although this one looks like it's taken a little bit more of a drop in deflation. Inflation is going to be up here on the graph. Deflation followed each inflation event, it looks like. But this level is still much higher than what we have seen here since about 2018. Just because we're seeing a little bit of deflation periods, I still think we're going to see some activity kick up here soon at the Kilauea Volcano and outside of the summit region. Thinking more or less around the older vents, 1974 vent activity. out here across the southwest rift zone, or potentially over here as well. I don't think we're going to see it here at the crater area. I'm basing my observations here and making a little call on what I believe will happen. Just due to all this inflation, earthquake activity here in the past couple months tends to be pointing towards these areas. And they can happen. They definitely can happen outside of this area. Only one little lonesome earthquake today, 1.8. So maybe they're not showing all of the earthquake activity. Let me go check out the seismograph stations here. There's some magma movement. Definitely looks like magma movement occurring here in some of these. Earthquake activity in others. So there's a handful of earthquakes there as well. Not for sure why they're not reporting all of that. Some of that may be picking up down here across Pahala, but a lot of that does look localized here as well. All right, what else is there, folks? Didn't mean to turn this into a super long video, but it's looking like it's that way, so might as well continue it with the space weather activity, or lack of space weather activity here. Currently flaring with, looks like a C 1.0. Not expecting much here, folks. 99% chance for a C flare. M flare at 30%. X flare around 1% or so. And a look at the sunspots. They are numerous and they are plenty, but they are very stable out here. There's not a whole lot of complexity out here in terms of the magnetic potential of seeing some strong flares. Unfortunately, that's what we got for right now. We have to deal with it. Coming around the eastern limb, doesn't look like much. Maybe a newer region up here on the northeastern limb we'll keep an eye on, but not really expecting any large flares. And looking at the past couple days here, we've been true to that statement. Only seeing very minimal C flare activity. No major aurora forecasts here. We haven't really seen any Earth-directed CMEs. No major coronal holes. So things are going to stay quiet for now in terms of space weather activity. Storm Prediction Center out here. Just some general thunderstorm activity across a good portion of Florida. No severe weather threat, though. Look at the numerical models here. This shows us what could or may take place in the days ahead. We do have our next storm system out here across the west coast, bringing with it some more moisture. I could definitely use some more rain out here. More snow up in the higher elevations, and it looks like that low will not make too much of an impact here across the rest of the country. It looks like that's going to scoot up north. We do have some colder air coming back down into a portion of northern plains in the Midwest, but eventually we're going to notice a more west to east type flow out here across California. That's going to push a lot of that colder air up and north, bringing with it some warmer air. I'm sure a lot of the folks are tired of the cold out there, but also California. Look at that. California is going to get some decent rainfall from a series of storm systems there, and that's a GFS model. At least it's going to last for at least maybe a week. It looks like we got to see what happens after the 25th or so. That's 10 days away from now. Things could change, but it looks like storm track wants to shift up north after that time period. But we'll watch it and see what happens. This is definitely due to a jet stream pattern out here across the Pacific that is enhancing the potential for storms, or at least low pressure systems out here in California. Right now, and over the past week or so, we've had a split jet stream. See a split right here. One went way up north, and the other one's kind of down south here, south of the west coast. That's why the southeast here across the states have been quite wet, getting in on that southern track of the jet. But that northern track has gone way up and brought a lot of this colder air down into the lower 48 over the past couple days or so. That is going to get squashed, and we're going to be looking at more of a linear type flow here for California. Notice that jet pattern not really split anymore, aiming directly at the west coast. That should amplify some of the storms here, some of the weather systems impacting the west coast. And you know, it lasts for a little bit, but then it looks like it wants to take another split here as we head into the end of the month. One potentially heading down south, one up north as well. We'll have to watch this though, see if this changes or not, but that could bring some further colder air back down into the states. I'm hoping it doesn't last long though, but this is very important in determining what takes place out here across a good portion of the country, and more so where I'm at here in California, because I'm ready for some rain. Bring on the rain. We've had a little bit, but we're a little bit behind. Precipitation accumulation. I'll check and see what we got here for the runs here. This goes all the way to the 31st, and most of it ends about right about here on the 25th or so. Once we get that split in the jet stream, that's when we lose our storm systems out here in California. But it does call, this is a GFS model, does look fairly decent in terms of rainfall accumulation. Looks like maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 inches or so from the series of storms here across Northern California, maybe more across the coast and mountain range. That's a GFS model. The ECMWF model goes to the 25th as well, and that's still decent as well. So the models are trending wet out here across the west coast, and when they're in agreement like that, that is good news. That means we got some decent rainfall coming up here for California. So I say bring it on. I'm a big fan of the rain. I like the cold, you know, but we're here in Northern California, in the valley, we're not really all that cold compared to what other folks have been dealing with. Goodness. 60 degrees here where I'm at right now, but it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, folks, I think that is about it. Like I say, Iceland, you know, there's charts there showing that the volume of magma below here has not been reduced across this area. Some spots, yes, but the Svartsengi area and Grindavik region is still showing some elevated activity. So we'll continue to watch that and see how this plays out. You know, at least one fissure activity out here looks still, one fissure event still looks active out here. But right now the lava flow has definitely slowed down, and that secondary fissure just in the north side of Grindavik has ceased, according to the latest information there on their website. But we'll continue to watch this, see how it plays out, and hope for the best. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Actually, we got a member drawing to do, right? We do. It's Monday the 15th. That is right. So let's see here. Probably about I've been so busy today and over the weekend. I got school coming up here next week, spring semester classes here, so it's going to be busy again. Been kind of getting stuff ready on my end, but we'll do the drawing here. Let's see. I want to get Missy Mimi's in on it as well, so let's go for 4 o'clock my time for the member drawing, which we'll do live here on the channel. It'll be a separate live stream from the live stream currently playing. You should get a notification if you click that notification bell on the YouTube channel here, on the Earthmaster YouTube channel. That will let you know when we go live or post any other videos. But 4 o'clock Pacific time, California time. That means 7 o'clock Eastern. See you guys back here then, and we'll be giving away some prizes there to the members. Jump on board if you want to be entered into the Magic Fish Bowl. All right, we'll see you guys back here at 4 o'clock my time sharp. Take care, folks.